From Fox 13, the most powerful name in local news, this is the Fox 13 10 o'clock news.
Embarrassment tonight at Tampa Police Headquarters. Good evening, I'm Frank Robertson, in tonight for John Wilson.
And I'm Kelly Ring. Thanks for being with us, everybody. And first on Fox, a sex scandal rocks the Tampa Police Department tonight. Internal Affairs blames a sergeant and 4 members of his squad for X-rated conduct on taxpayer time. Fox 13's Craig Patrick joins us now with more. What's this all about, Craig?
Yeah, well, we have a whole 13-page report from Internal Affairs. It documents a whole 8-month series of offensive and very immature behavior. For example, one of the officers took some dirty pictures and showed them around to people, and that's just the beginning.
Tampa used to have a special crime squad, and they patrolled the sexually charged atmosphere of late-night Ybor City.
It's usually what we call the witching hour, which is between 2 and 3 o'clock, and that's usually when it gets hectic.
Sergeant Gene Strickland used to brag about arresting people for being naughty and rude.
We kept them all. Each fish we caught, we put in a boat and hauled to jail.
But Internal Affairs say the sergeant's squad was also being naughty. A female officer complained that they were obsessed with bodily functions and fixated on sex.
And she confided in the lieutenant, saying that it was a very uncomfortable and offensive environment that existed on the squad. At that time, we immediately disbanded the squad and started the investigation.
According to the complaint, squad members consistently flagellated, belched, and joked around excessively. They watched pornographic movies, talked about their sex lives in the open, made references to the officer's menstruation, and joked about having homosexual relations.
That we even have to conduct an investigation into this type of behavior and this type of sexually charged atmosphere is a low point for the Tampa Police Department.
Internal Affairs also faulted Sergeant Strickland for not following procedures in other incidents, like this shooting last summer where he got shot in the foot. The Tampa Police now face a much bigger embarrassment. Months worth of constant and very immature behavior from a police squad. The Internal Affairs report concludes that Sergeant Strickland told the officers at times to tone down their immature actions, but did nothing more to tone down the environment.
And the discipline will reflect the department's tremendous disappointment in these officers.
Yeah. And the top brass of the Tampa Police Department would not talk about this. Meanwhile, we could not reach the mayor. She is in Tallahassee. And Kelly, tonight, 5 officers are in a whole lot of trouble.
What kind of punishment are they looking at here?
Right now, they've been demoted either to desk work or patrolling the streets. A review board will decide the ultimate punishment. At the very least, these officers will get suspended and they could lose their jobs.
All right. Thank you. Craig Patrick reporting tonight. Thanks, Craig.
In Polk County tonight, an investigation into a body found along the highway. A worker found the remains just off State Road 60 in Bartow, a property that used to be owned by Clear Springs Phosphate Mine. The remains were sent to the medical examiner's office for investigation. No word yet on the identity or how that person may have died. Polk County investigators made a break in another case, their first murder of the year. Jose Padilla was arrested in Puerto Rico for the Valentine's Day murder of Marcelino Crespo. Investigators say Padilla traveled to Florida and shot Crespo in Haines City after finding out he was having an affair with his wife. He'll be sent back to Polk County to face murder charges. And a 16-year-old is facing charges in the shooting of his little brother in St. Petersburg. Police say the teen's 7-year-old brother found a gun stashed under the couch. He pointed it at another brother, 5-year-old Dorian Black, and fired. Dorian was shot in the chest but survived. Tonight, their older brother is under arrest, facing charges of negligence and possession of a firearm.
And a Broward County deputy has died after getting hit by a car on a traffic stop. It happened last night along Interstate 95. Ryan Seguin stopped a westbound car for speeding. The lights on his patrol car were flashing, but that did not stop a car from drifting into the emergency lane, and that's when the officer was hit. So do you know what to do when you see a deputy pulled over on the highway? Well, there's a specific law put in place to prevent accidents like last night's. Fox 13's Nancy Perla breaks it down for us to save you a ticket next time around.
Sometimes the last thing you want to see when you're driving down the highway is those flashing lights in your rearview mirror.
But imagine how frightening even a routine traffic stop can be from the officer's point of view.
You quickly want to get out of your car and get to the other side of the vehicle because you do put yourself in danger being exposed on that side of the road. Do you have insurance for this?
As a Florida highway patrolman, Trooper Mike Wilder works on busy roads. And when he has to pull someone over, he turns on his blue lights. That's supposed to signal to every other driver that you need to get out of the lane closest to him when you can, safely. And if you can't, you need to go 20 miles under the speed limit. In fact, that's the law, though he says you wouldn't know it.
They're not paying attention. They're on the cell phone or they're trying to make a lane change. I'm either getting out of my car, walking back to my car, and it becomes a close call out there.
The Move Over law was passed in 2002 to help keep Florida's highway force safe. But just last night, a patrolman in Broward County was struck and killed by a passing car. And it happened in Highlands County a few weeks ago. Luckily, that deputy escaped unhurt. Mike Wilder says if every driver obeyed the law, he and all of his colleagues would feel a lot better. To many of us, it's already just common sense.
You got maniacs driving down the road that the flashing lights don't mean nothing to them, you know? It's a dangerous job.
So Wilder asks, please remember that next time you see those flashing lights. Nancy Perla, Fox 13 News.
And in fact, ignoring the blue light law can get you a moving violation here in Florida, which can mean 3 points against your license and a ticket of $125. Frank?
The war on terror is a top priority for President Bush, and that's what he'll talk about on his visit to the Port of Tampa tomorrow. But as Fox 13's Jim Hill shows us, the port has security risks of its own.
The Port of Tampa. It handles millions of tons of fuel, oil, and fertilizer, making it an attractive target for terrorists.
The fact that the Port of Tampa is a port of entry, that there's international commerce occurring at the Port of Tampa, creates inherent threats that are there just because of the nature of that facility.
A threat that Sheriff David G. says the president calls his #1 priority to prevent.
He obviously is extremely concerned about world events, about the potential for attacks in our homeland.
But when President Bush visits the port to discuss the war on terror, he'll enter an area that Florida Department of Law Enforcement officials say have gaps in security. People are finding ways in.
All the major seaports in Florida do have access control issues, and the state, working in partnership with the seaports, is trying to tighten those measures as much as possible without impeding commerce.
Since September 2001, security at the Port of Tampa has improved substantially, with measures like limiting access to the port and adding surveillance equipment. But there will always be a lingering problem.
For one, public roads are within close distance to fuel tanks, leaving another gap to be filled.
And some of those can be closed, and some of them cannot be closed. I will be quite honestly, unless you were to eliminate certain businesses there, you can't do it.
There are gaps in security, and there will always be gaps in security. And what we need to do is we need to use the money that we get, whether it's grant money or state money, to look at our biggest threats, our biggest vulnerabilities, and address those.
It's a matter of staying a few steps ahead of would-be terrorists. Jim Hill, Fox 13 News.
According to Sheriff G., Homeland Security funds that were in jeopardy of being cut in our area may be restored to support security measures already put in place. First Lady Laura Bush is already in Florida. She was in Miami-Dade County at an elementary school. She urged children to learn more about science and the history of national parks. It's a cause that's close to her heart. Mrs. Bush chairs the National Park Foundation.
It is a beautiful evening out there, clear skies, and I guess this is what we're going to expect the next few days, right, Paul?
Yeah, we truly are locked in.